It was a quiet night in Springfield, Missouri. The kind of night where nothing unusual ever happens, where streets stay still, and neighbors sleep without locking their doors twice. Inside a modest home on East Delmar Street, everything appeared normal. 3 cars sat parked in the driveway. Personal belongings were exactly where they should be. Nothing looked disturbed. Nothing looked out of place. And yet, by morning, 3 women would be gone. No signs of forced entry, no indication of a struggle, no witnesses, just an empty house, and a growing sense that something was very wrong. When friends arrived the next day, they expected to find them getting ready, maybe running late, maybe still asleep after a long night. Instead, they found a scene that didn't make sense. Purses, still inside. Keys, untouched. Money, left behind. Even the family dog, still there. It was as if the women had simply stepped out, but nothing about it felt voluntary. And as the hours passed, confusion turned into concern. Concern turned into panic. Because 3 people don't just disappear without a trace. Not in the middle of the night, not from inside their own home, and yet that's exactly what happened. More than 3 decades later, no one knows where they went. No one knows what happened inside that house, and no one has ever been held responsible. This is the story of the Springfield Three. Springfield, Missouri. In 1992, it was the kind of place people described as safe, a growing city, but still small enough that people recognized familiar faces. Neighborhoods were quiet, routine was predictable, and for 3 women, life was just beginning to take shape. Sherrill Levitt was 47 years old, a single mother, a cosmetologist. She had recently moved into a new home on East Delmar Street, a place she had worked hard for. Friends described her as strong, independent, and meticulous, someone who took pride in her work and her home. She didn't do things halfway, and after years of rebuilding her life, this house represented a fresh start. Her daughter, Suzie Streeter, was 19, outgoing, social, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately belong there. But she was also particular, a creature of habit, someone who liked things done a certain way. Even something as simple as where she parked her car was always the same. Suzie had plans for her future. She wanted to follow in her mother's footsteps and become a hairdresser. At the time, she was working at a local movie theater and preparing for what came next. Then there was Stacy McCall, 18 years old, bright, friendly, often described as funny, even a little spacey at times. She had just graduated high school and was planning to attend college in the fall. Her life was moving forward. She had a close relationship with her parents and a tight circle of friends. Suzie and Stacy hadn't always been inseparable. They were friends when they were younger, but over time, they drifted into different social groups, different personalities, different lifestyles. But in the months leading up to graduation, they found their way back to each other. And on the night of June 6, 1992, their paths aligned again. It was supposed to be a celebration, a graduation, a transition into adulthood. Plans were simple: spend the night celebrating, get some rest, and meet friends the next morning for a trip to a water park. Nothing unusual, nothing risky. Just a normal night for 2 teenagers, with their entire lives ahead of them. And inside that house on Delmar Street, Sherrill Levitt was waiting, unaware that this ordinary night was about to become anything but. June 6, 1992. Graduation day. At Kickapoo High School, hundreds of students gathered to celebrate the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Among them were Stacy McCall and Suzie Streeter. Photos were taken, families gathered, plans were made for the night ahead. It was the kind of evening people remember for the rest of their lives. After the ceremony ended around 6 p.m., the night was just getting started. Like many graduates, Stacy and Suzie had one goal: celebrate. They went home briefly to change, then headed out to meet friends. By around 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., Both had arrived at a friend's house in Battlefield, Missouri, where groups were forming and plans were shifting. From there, they moved between parties, different houses, different crowds, a typical graduation night. At one point, there was a plan. Drive to Branson, about an hour away, stay overnight, spend the next day at Whitewater Amusement Park. But late-night plans rarely stay the same. Around 10:30 p.m., Stacy called her mother.
She called me at 10:30 and said, "Mom, don't worry, we're not going to go to Branson tonight." And I said, "Phew, thank you.
She told her they had decided not to make the drive. They would stay in town instead. It was a small decision, one that felt safer, one that would unknowingly change everything.
You know, you say, "I love you" again on the phone, and I had no idea that was the last time I was going to hear her voice.
As the night continued, the group attended another party on Hanover Street, but that didn't last long. Police arrived and broke it up. So once again, plans shifted. By the early hours of the morning, around 2 a.m., Stacy and Suzie returned to their friend Janelle's house. The intention was simple: spend the night there and meet up with everyone in the morning. But there was a problem. The house was crowded. Too many people, not enough space. So, one more change. Suzie made a suggestion. She had just gotten a new king-size waterbed, and her house would be quiet. Plenty of room, a place to rest before the next day. It made sense.
And Suzie said, "I've got a brand new king-size waterbed. Why don't you come and stay at my house with me, and we'll get ready and go to Whitewater and meet them."
Shortly after 2 a.m., the two girls left in separate cars. Suzie drove ahead. Stacy followed behind. Friends would later remember hearing them say, "Follow me to my house." And that was it. They arrived at 1717 East Delmar Street, sometime around 2:15 to 2:30 a.m. Inside, Sherrill Levitt was likely already asleep. The house was quiet, still, nothing out of the ordinary. And at that moment, everything was still normal. Three women inside a home at the end of a long night. But somewhere, between 2:30 a.m. and the early hours of the morning, something happened. Something no one saw. Something no one heard. Because after that point, there are no confirmed sightings, no verified movements, no signs of life. Just a gap in time, and a mystery that begins in the silence of that house. Morning came quietly. No alarms, no urgency, no indication that anything was wrong. At first, it was just a missed phone call, then another, and another. Friends began trying to reach Suzie and Stacy early that morning, expecting them to be getting ready for the trip to the water park. But no one answered. At the time, it didn't seem alarming. They had been out late. They were probably still asleep.
I got the answering machine. I left her a message. I hung up and laid back down and waited for her to call me back. And she never called me back.
By around 9 a.m., Susie's friend Janelle Kirby and her boyfriend decided to stop by the house on East Delmar Street, just to check, just to see if they were running late. As they pulled into the driveway, everything looked normal. All three cars were there. Sherrill's, Susie's, Stacy's. That should have been reassuring. And at first, it was. But then, small things started to feel off. Susie's car wasn't parked where it usually was. She had a habit, a routine. And this wasn't it.
She would always pull right into the carport. That's not where her car was. And then I instantly am thinking, was somebody parked in the driveway? Was somebody already there?
As they approached the house, they noticed something else.
There was glass on the porch.
Broken glass, scattered across the porch, a shattered globe from the porch light. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't violent, but it didn't belong there. But without thinking much of it, they did something that would later matter more than they realized. They cleaned it up, swept the glass away, threw it out, just trying to help. Then, they knocked on the door. No answer. They tried the handle, unlocked.
And I thought, why would they leave their front door unlocked? And I hollered and I said, "Stacy, Suzie," and called for Sherrill.
Inside, It was quiet. Too quiet. The television was on, but only showing static. Lights were off, no voices, no movement. And then, something moved. A small blur of motion rushing toward them. It was the dog, Cinnamon, agitated, nervous, reacting to something, or maybe the absence of something. They called out. Suzie, Stacy, Sherrill, nothing. And they began to look around the house, room by room, and that's when the details started to add up. They're inside. Everything was still there. Purses, grouped together, keys, inside them, money, untouched. Sherrill's purse still held nearly $900 in cash.
Opened up their purses and went through. That's when we found out that Sherrill had almost a $900 deposit in her purse.
Cigarettes left behind, something that didn't make sense. Because Sherrill was a chain smoker, she didn't go anywhere without them. Clothes, laid out, shoes, placed neatly. It looked like the women had come home and were preparing for bed, or had already gone to sleep. There were no signs of a struggle. No overturned furniture, no broken doors, nothing that suggested violence. And yet, no one was there. As they tried to process what they were seeing, the phone rang. Janelle answered. On the other end, a man, his voice calm but disturbing, making sexual, inappropriate comments.
It was a very rude phone call.
Like rude meaning lewd comments?
Lewd sexual content.
She hung up immediately. Moments later, the phone rang again. Same voice, same tone. It felt wrong, but still, not enough to fully understand what was happening. At that point, they believed one thing. The women had stepped out, maybe for food, maybe to meet someone, maybe something simple. So they left. They didn't call police. They didn't raise an alarm, because at that moment, this didn't feel like a disappearance. It felt like a misunderstanding. But as the hours passed, and no one returned, that feeling began to change. As the morning turned into afternoon, something shifted. What had felt like a delay now felt like something else. More people began arriving at the house. Friends, family, anyone who expected to see Suzie or Stacy that day. Each one walked into the same scene. An unlocked door, a silent house, no answers. By early afternoon, Stacy's mother, Janice McCall, arrived. At this point, concern had started to grow. Her daughter was supposed to call. She always called, and she hadn't. And when Janice entered the house, she immediately noticed the same things. Cinnamon, anxious and restless. The television, still on. Personal belongings, untouched.
And watching a show and or a movie or something, and it went off.
But now, the details felt heavier, more deliberate. Stacy's clothes from the night before, neatly folded. Her jewelry, placed carefully inside them. Her shoes, set beside the bed. It didn't look like someone had left in a hurry. It looked like someone had been getting ready for bed and never finished. Here in the bathroom, there were damp washcloths. Makeup had been removed, a sign that the night had come to an end. And then, the same detail that had stood out before became impossible to ignore. All three purses, together. Inside them, IDs, money, keys, cigarettes. Everything a person would normally take if they were leaving, even briefly. But nothing was missing. By now, the possibility of a simple misunderstanding was starting to fade. And yet, no one had called the police. Instead, people tried to help. They cleaned. They straightened things up. They wiped surfaces, emptied ashtrays, washed dishes, even fixed a bent window blind.
A dozen people in a house, emptying ashtrays, cleaning coffee cups, but nobody could grasp that this was anything but a misunderstanding.
And it was instinct. Something felt wrong. So they tried to restore order. But without realizing it, they were doing something else. They were destroying a crime scene. Fingerprints, possibly gone. Footprints, disturbed. Objects, moved. Details that might have mattered, lost. And then, the phone rang again. And this time, they let the unanswering machine pick it up. A man's voice, obscene, unfamiliar, disturbing.
It was a very rude phone call.
Like rude meaning lewd comments?
Lewd sexual content.
At first, they assumed it was nothing more than a prank. Graduation night, teenagers, late-night calls. So someone did what seemed natural. They deleted it.
Somehow it got erased.
Just like that, one of the only potential clues was gone forever. By evening, nearly a full day had passed. No calls, no sightings, no explanation. The confusion had turned into fear, and finally, around 8:48 p.m., someone made the call. Police were notified, but by the time they arrived, the house on East Delmar Street was no longer the same. Whatever had happened inside that home, whatever evidence had been left behind, had already been touched, moved, and in some cases erased. When police arrived at the house on East Delmar Street, they already knew one thing. This wasn't normal. 3 women, gone, all at once, from the same house. That alone was enough to raise alarms. Officer Rick Bookout was one of the first on scene. He walked into the home and immediately began assessing what was left behind. The cars were still outside, all 3 of them. Inside, nothing appeared forced. No broken doors, no shattered windows, no obvious signs of violence, but something didn't feel right. There were clear signs that the night had ended normally. Beds had been used, makeup had been removed, personal routines completed. It looked like the women had come home and settled in for the night. And then, something interrupted that routine, because everything important was still there. Purses, money, keys, medications, items people don't leave behind, not voluntarily. Investigators quickly reached a conclusion. The women had not planned to go anywhere, and yet, they were gone. From the very beginning, police suspected foul play. But there was a problem, a major one. The scene had already been compromised by the time officers began their work. Dozens of people had already moved through the house, cleaning, touching, rearranging. Any fingerprints that may have existed could have been wiped away. Any footprints, disturbed. And the one piece of evidence that might have helped, the voicemail message, was gone. Deleted before anyone even knew what it might have contained.
There's nothing. You have no threads, hair, blood, no.
Investigators were left with a house full of answers that could no longer be read. Still, they pushed forward. The case was officially classified as a missing persons investigation, but one where foul play was strongly suspected. Within days, resources expanded. The FBI became involved. Search teams were organized. Officers began canvassing neighborhoods, looking for anyone who might have seen something. But there was another problem. No one had. Neighbors reported nothing unusual, no screams, no disturbances, no suspicious activity. It was as if whatever happened quietly. Too quietly. Investigators began asking the same question, over and over again. How do you take 3 people from a house without leaving a trace? One possibility began to take shape. Whoever was responsible may not have forced their way in. The women may have opened the door themselves. That idea changed everything, because it meant one of 2 things. Either they knew the person, or they trusted them enough to let them inside. And if that was true, then the danger didn't come from the outside. It walked right up to the front door and was invited in. In the days that followed, Springfield changed. What started as confusion quickly became a full-scale investigation. Police began searching everywhere. Fields, forests, rivers, helicopters scanned from above. Dogs tracked scents from the house. Every possible lead was followed. But nothing was found. No bodies, no clothing, no physical trace of the 3 women. It was as if they had vanished, completely. Still, tips began coming in, hundreds at first, then thousands. Over time, more than 10,000 leads would be reported. Most of them went nowhere, but a few stood out. One of the earliest came from a woman sitting on her porch at dawn. She reported seeing a vehicle, an older model, green van. Inside, a young woman was driving. The witness believed she looked like Suzie Streeter, but something was wrong. The woman behind the wheel appeared distressed, possibly crying, and from the back seat, a man's voice. Calm, controlled, giving instructions. Don't do anything stupid. Keep driving. The tone wasn't a suggestion, it was a warning. If the sighting was accurate, then at least one of the women was alive after leaving the house. But the lead had problems. The witness didn't report it immediately. Days passed before she came forward, and by then, whatever trail existed was gone. Still, the green van became a central focus. Multiple people reported seeing similar vehicles in the area, parked near the house, driving through nearby streets. Descriptions varied, but the pattern was enough to keep investigators searching. They stopped vans, questioned drivers, followed every possible match. Nothing led anywhere. Another possible lead came from a late-night diner. A waitress claimed she had seen all three women. In the early hours of June 7th, she recognized Sherrill, said the group had come in together. According to her, Suzie appeared upset. Sherrill, trying to calm her down, and nearby, three men the waitress described as rough, unsettling, watching the women. She believed the two groups may have interacted outside the restaurant. If true, this would place the women alive after they supposedly returned home. But again, there were problems. No other staff confirmed the sighting. The timeline didn't quite fit, and investigators couldn't verify the account. So once again, a lead faded into uncertainty. Other reports came in. Screams heard in the distance, tires screeching in the early morning hours, unfamiliar vehicles parked in unusual places, each one investigated, each one ultimately unconfirmed, and that became the pattern. For every possible clue, there was doubt. For every lead, a dead end. But one idea continued to grow stronger. This wasn't random. Whoever was responsible either knew the women or had been watching them, because nothing about this case looked like chance. It looked planned, precise, and executed in a way that left almost nothing behind. As the investigation deepened, attention turned to one question: who could have done this? Over the years, multiple suspects emerged, some with motive, some with opportunity, but none with enough evidence. The grave robbers. One of the earliest theories centered around Suzie's past. Just months before the disappearance, her former boyfriend had been involved in a grave robbing case, breaking into a mausoleum, stealing items from the dead. Suzie was disgusted. She ended the relationship and cooperated with police. More than that, she was expected to testify. That made her a problem. Investigators considered the possibility. Was she targeted to keep her silent? There was reason to look closer. One of the men allegedly made a chilling remark, hoping the women were dead. But when questioned, the suspects denied involvement. They had alibis. No physical evidence tied them to the scene, and despite suspicion, nothing could be proven. Bart Streeter. Then there was Suzie's brother. Their relationship had been strained. Arguments, tension, at one point even physical conflict. He had a history of drinking and a reputation for volatility. But when investigators looked into his whereabouts, he had an alibi. Confirmed. He passed a polygraph, and once again, there was no evidence. Then came a name that would follow the case for decades. Robert Craig Cox, a former Army Ranger, a convicted kidnapper, a man with a violent past. At the time of the disappearance, he was living in Springfield, even more unsettling. He had a connection to Stacy's family. He worked at the same car dealership as her father. Years later, he made a statement, not a confession, but something close. He claimed he knew the women were dead and that their bodies would never be found. When pressed for details, he refused, saying he would only talk after his mother died.
I know that they're dead. I'll say that. I know that.
That's not a theory.
Yeah, but I know that I just know that they're dead. That's not my theory, I just know that.
At first, he had an alibi. His girlfriend said they were together at church. But later, she changed her story. She admitted she didn't actually know where he was. The alibi collapsed, and yet, even with that, there still wasn't enough. No physical evidence, no direct link, just words and suspicion. Another name entered the conversation years later. A suspected serial killer, Larry Dwayne Hall, a man believed to be responsible for multiple disappearances across the Midwest, known for traveling long distances, targeting young women, leaving little to no evidence. Some investigators believed his methods matched the case. There were even claims that he had confessed, but like so many leads, those confessions were inconsistent, unreliable, and again, no proof. Theories with no clear suspect. Theories began to take shape. 1. Someone they knew. Perhaps the simplest explanation. The women opened the door because they recognized the person. No forced entry, no struggle. Everything points to trust, at least in the beginning. 2. A ruse. Another possibility. Deception. Someone posing as a utility worker, a neighbor, someone in need of help. Something that would get the door open without suspicion. 3. A single offender. Investigators considered something even more unsettling. That one person, armed, could have controlled all 3 women, forcing them out of the house and quickly, quietly. No noise, no resistance. It sounds unlikely, but according to behavioral analysis, it's possible. 4. Multiple offenders. Others believe it couldn't have been just one. 3 women at the same time suggest coordination, planning. But again, there's no evidence either way. The problem: every theory leads somewhere, but never far enough. Every suspect raises questions, but never answers them. And after years of investigation, one truth remains: police believe they may have already spoken to the person responsible. But without evidence, without proof, without a mistake, that person walked away, leaving behind nothing, and taking the truth with them. More than 3 decades have passed. The house on East Delmar Street is no longer the same. The neighborhood has changed. People have moved on, but the case never did. Despite thousands of leads, countless searches, and years of investigation, not a single confirmed trace of Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, or Stacy McCall has ever been found. No remains, no weapon, no definitive suspect. Just questions. In 1997, 5 years after they vanished, Sherrill and Suzie were legally declared dead. Stacy's family refused, because without a body, without proof, there was still hope. And maybe that's what makes this case so different. There's no ending, no crime scene to revisit, no final moment to reconstruct. Just a house and a gap in time that no one has ever been able to fill. Investigators still receive tips, even today. Some credible, most not. But every single one has to be checked, because in a case like this, the smallest detail could change everything. There are still theories, still suspects, still people who believe they know what happened, but belief isn't enough. What makes this case so haunting isn't just the disappearance, it's how it happened. 3 women, inside a home, in the middle of the night. No struggle, no sound, no witnesses, just gone. Some investigators believe the answer is simple: that whoever was responsible planned it, knew the house, knew the routine, knew when to act, and most importantly, knew how to leave nothing behind. Others believe it was a moment of opportunity, a chance encounter that turned into something far darker. But no matter the theory, they all end the same way, with 3 missing women and no explanation. And maybe the most unsettling part of all is this: someone knows what happened. Someone has known for over 30 years, and whether it was a stranger or someone closer, they've never come forward. Because in the end, the mystery of the Springfield Three isn't just about how they disappeared. It's about how, in a quiet neighborhood, on an ordinary night, 3 lives could vanish without a trace.